Hey there coders, welcome back to the channel for the next video in our Claude Code series. Today we're leveling up by exploring how to use Claude Code for test cases. Whether you're looking to ensure a rock-solid stability, reliability, or streamlining your testing processes, I've got you covered. So fire up your IDE and let's dive into creating test cases with Claude. Here we are. We're right back at the pizza router in Camel code. So what we're going to do today is we're going to actually take a look at what Claude Code can do from a testing perspective, and let's kind of see how well it does. I have high hopes here, but what I'm expecting to do is we don't have any tests written for this at all yet. So I'm going to go through the process of actually setting up or asking Claude Code to create the test, and we'll run it and we'll see how well it does. All right, so let's get after it. Let's start up Claude Code. There we go. So now all we're going to do is literally just jump right in and say create unit tests for the all right. So let's see how this does. There are no unit tests written, so let's see how it first identifies where we want the test written. Oh, look at that. It's actually going out and checking for testing dependencies required for the testing environment or for the Camel test environments. And let's see. Look at this. All right, so first thing it's asking us to do is to verify the dependency changes. Camel test plugin, JUnit 5, test starter, Jupyter, and Mockito. Yeah, that looks good to me. All right, so let's go ahead and apply those. Let's let it keep going. Okay, so at this point, it went ahead and created a full test case. Let's take a look and see what it does. So obviously this is a new file. Let's go and see. This was done in the Camel Quick Start Test Java org examples. So we should be able to, okay, so it'll put it under here once I apply it. So let's take a look at what it's about to do. So the nice thing is that it gives us this opportunity. So when it makes changes, we can go in here, see the differences in the changes, and then apply them. I mean, this is outstanding. So in this case, we are setting up these mock endpoints, Kafka JDBC, because we don't want it to have to call out to each one of these. We're telling it to reset that endpoint to set it to the new one. And okay, interesting. So I did not use adviceWith to do these tests. So I'm kind of interested to see how these tests are going to work. So let's go ahead and let's run it. Let's just let's apply these changes. Since it's in its own file, it'll be easy for us to back out and retry. But let's go ahead and apply it. All right, so at this point, they're going to go ahead and run the test for us. So let's go ahead and see how well it does. Look at that. It automatically detected some bugs, and it's automatically fixing them for us. So here, it's going to change this to that type of endpoint. So let's go ahead and apply that. I don't see any problem with that. All right, so it wants to run the test again. Yes, I wish to proceed. Okay, so as we can see that it's finding that it's done certain things incorrectly here. So it keeps trying to fix itself. So let's go ahead and see how far it'll go. Sometimes running these Camel tests can be fairly difficult. That's why I'm kind of curious to see just how well it does on something like this. All right, let's go ahead and run them. And as we can see, JSON processor test. Yes, I would like to. Okay, so it realized that the JSON processor test is passing. Now let's complete the to-do and create a summary of the unit tests I've created. Perfect. So it's added all the dependencies. Test using mock endpoints to intercept the Kafka and JDBC call. So it fixed all of the problems itself. Now let me go ahead and I would like to just go. Let's first take a look at what it's done. We have these three different tests. JSON to SQL conversion. So just for giggles, let's go ahead and I want to just test one of these. So let's go ahead and run just this one. Let's try the router integration one. I want all of the tests run for the router integration test. Yep, so those ones failed. So now let's go back to Claude Code. All right, so now what it's doing, okay, so this is something I don't necessarily like. I'm not really fond of what it did here. It's actually rebuilding the test or the entire route in the test case. That's not a good way to do this, because now every time you go to make a change to your route, you'd have to make it in two places as well as your test. What they've done here is they've replaced it in the from, instead of using like an advanced adviceWith. It's just recreating the entire route. So what I'm going to do, let's see how this works. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to say no, and what I would like it to do is use adviceWith to create the route test to replace the file component with direct. All right, let's see how this does. I'm hoping that I didn't give it too much detail, so we'll see if it actually understands what I'm trying to do. Okay, so it did say this is a cleaner approach that modifies the existing route. All right, so now that it's doing that, let's see how it... All right, so here's what I was looking for. So the adviceWith here is what comes in and says, okay, when you find this route, what I wanted to do is I wanted to replace that with this. That way you have a direct endpoint to hit. So let's go see if it actually can do this correctly. Okay, so the adviceWith worked, which is a good. So I mean, again, this demonstrates that you can't just come into this and expect some product owner who doesn't understand code to now be able to take control of like an application. You have to know what's going on. You have to understand what's going on behind the scenes. You have to be able to look at the code and understand it. You need somebody here to help guide it, kind of like a guru, a master, whatever you want to call them. But this at least gets it to the next point. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and let's see if we can get it working. So the interesting part is that sometimes these types of things can take a developer days to work through. So the fact that I can do this in literally just a few minutes is I can iterate very quickly, and this is amazing. It makes applying these changes so much faster. So again, it's made changes to the weave at last. So again, it's using the adviceWith to now weave in mock endpoints to be able to test against. Again, the thought process behind this, if you were doing this directly, would take a developer, even a seasoned developer, a while to get all these pieces put together. So the fact that Claude Code can get you there so much faster is amazing. Okay, so again, the test is trying to connect to the database source. So they need to be able to, it needs to work out when to mock it. One of the bigger challenges with the Camel environment is that when Camel starts up, it actually tries to initiate the components. So it has to be able to stop those initiations before it gets to that point. And I'm kind of curious if it's going to be able to figure this out. All right. Let's see, the test now verify. This is the different steps. The adviceWith approach is much cleaner. Trying to work around with file components, behavior. There we go. All right, so now let's go see if we go ahead and go into our application, into the test, and what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and run the entire thing. Look at that. Wow. Let's go here. Let's run this test. Oop. All right, so we got a little more work to do. Not done yet. Okay, so let's go out and we've got one more thing to do. Let's get Claude to clean up this test. So we're probably gonna have to walk it through fixing that. So Okay, so again, we're asking it to go out and try that same test again, but this time I'm being a little more efficient by telling it to go ahead and use the adviceWith right off the bat. That way we don't have to go through as much iteration. So I'm learning just like it is. All right, it's adding that in. We're good with that. And again, you know, I mean, if we were being more diligent and not doing this for a video, we would go through and make sure that the code lines up, that there's not too many changes going on at one time, or that it's not making bad decisions. But for purposes of time, I'm just more or less showing what you can do with this and how much it'll actually do for you. Again, so there's the adviceWith, kind of doing the same thing. Okay, so most tests are passing, so it's only got a couple of changes it's got to make, so we're getting there, we're getting close. Let's go ahead and apply those. Let's see how it does. So again, it found an error. And it went in and actually made changes to how the code is, or how the tests are running. So it discovered that, and now it's going back in to redo the tests. So let's see if it made the right decisions. I mean, to me, this is some really incredible stuff, how fast you can iterate on this. Complete. There we go. All right. You know what? Let's just do it from here. Run all tests and present. The entire test suite is now robust, maintainable, and provides excellent coverage. So look at that. There's our output. There we go. Test class breakdown shows us the successful outcomes. Great. So there we go. You know, the ability for Claude Code to go in there, identify problems, fix it. You can see that it did iterate through multiple times. So it doesn't replace a developer, obviously. The point is that a developer becomes way more efficient. And I mean way more efficient. Oh, and the entire process here probably took around 15 to 20 minutes. It wasn't bad. For as much work as we did in 15 to 20 minutes, it was pretty astounding. So if you liked it, if you find this useful, like and subscribe. And we'll catch you on the next video.